I've learned that atheism contains a broad spectrum of people with different ideas about what atheism is. There's different kinds of atheists. There's militant atheists, hardened atheists, unreasonable atheists, closed-minded atheists, weak atheists and reasonable atheists, open-minded atheists, indifferent atheists. There's even atheists who aren't sure if they're atheists. There's atheists who say they're atheists because they'll be mocked by their friends if they say they're not atheists. And there's even atheists who would like somebody to give them a reason not to be an atheist. Well, they all have different ideas about atheism. A bit like a religion, maybe. If you're open, indifferent, you're not sure, you're even afraid of a bit of mockery, or you just have doubts about being an atheist, then you're the people that this video is for. If you're a Christian or some other faith, then why don't you just ride along with other human beings for a while? If you're militant, strong, hardened, closed-minded or unreasonable in your atheism, then this video probably isn't for you. But I can't stop you watching it anyway. Hello there, my name's Ed. I'm just a bloke off the council estates in Gateshead in the northeast of England. I'm nobody special. I didn't go to university. I'm an ex-church pastor, and I'd say I'd lived a checkered life. I had some conversations with some people about whether the potatoes in my kitchen are atheists. That was based on the definition they gave me. I talked to my atheist potatoes some more and suggested to them that atheism was a bit like a religion. They started to boil. But let me explain why I said that. Imagine a conversation between me and my atheist potato friend. So I say, I've just been on holiday to Scotland. My atheist potato friend says, there's no such place as Scotland. I'm a Scotland skeptic. All that talk of moody mists and eerie battlefields and beautiful mountains and the Glen and men in dresses. It sounds mythical the more and more I talk about it. I'm not fooled. So I say, but that's ridiculous, I've been there. How do you explain things like haggis and hogmanay and the Bay City Rollers and Archie Gemmell's left foot? And how do you explain all them people whose name begins with muck and the accent that's even more incomprehensible than mine? Where's your evidence that Scotland doesn't exist? Evidence, says my atheist friend. Yes man, evidence. It must be really impressive. You must have more than just a few prejudices. I mean, I know it's a small country now, it's only got a few people in it, but it's right there, stuck on top of England. I see what you're saying, but you're obviously confused, right? You think that my a-Scotlandism is a claim, that it's a belief, right? But it's not. I'm not claiming anything, it's simply a non-belief. There's no evidence necessary, it's just a lack of belief in Scotland. I'm not claiming anything, I'm just rejecting your belief in Scotland. In fact, I reject your claim of belief in all Gaelic-speaking countries, including Scotland, Ireland, and the Isle of Man. I'm not claiming anything, and I don't have to provide any evidence for my non-belief. It all sounds a bit mad to me, but like the a-Scotlandist, the atheist is claiming our belief is not a belief. It's not a claim of any kind. It's just a passive non-belief in the claim that there is a God. Some atheists would word it differently, but that's a summary. I've got to say this is a really smart move by atheists. In fact, I think it's absolutely genius. It means they can chuck rocks at other people's beliefs and not bother justifying their own. It's like a magic imaginary force field of Dickie Dawkins fairy dust that they put up to hide behind. So's the evidence thing. I don't think there's any amount of evidence that you could give an atheist to convince them that there's a God. It's almost fraudulent. It's what they call, I think, an a priori position. It's a presumption. I don't think it's got anything to do with evidence, but if it does, all I've seen is that there's a huge side order of confirmation bias served up with that evidence. For all the protestations, I think it just looks like a belief thing to me. But why would I say such a thing? Especially the potatoes thing. If I ask you, did Holland wear orange socks in the game they played against Scotland in the 1978 World Cup, it has a truth value. Equally, if I say to you, did Archie Gemmell dribble past 6 Holland players and score a magical goal with his left foot so Scotland won the game 3-2, that also has a truth value. It can be true or it can be false. That truth claims. But if one says atheism isn't a claim, it's just a non-belief in the claim there is a God, that isn't a truth claim. It can't be true and it can't be false. Only something you claim can be true or can be false. Therefore, when one says, my atheism isn't a claim to truth, it's just a non-belief in the claim that there is a God, it's actually meaningless. That's because it can't be true or false. It's a completely meaningless thing to say. It's like asking, is the colour orange true? Or is Archie Gemmell's left foot false? Or it's like when the flower pot men say flobbelob lob lob. It's just a meaningless thing to say. That's why I say my kitchen potatoes think like that too. Because they have the same level of unbelief. So by definition, they must be atheists. And I'm not being horrible, and I'm not getting down on the atheists. It just makes sense, doesn't it? But then an atheist might say, it goes without saying that I'm talking about a being who is capable of belief and unbelief. But you see, the problem with that is this. First of all, there's nothing that goes without saying if you're an atheist and you claim that your life is based on evidence. And every worldview you have is based on the evidence of stuff you see around you. Nothing goes without saying. It's also a betrayal of the idea that one is an atheist based on the unbelief of somebody else's claim alone and evidence alone. Because that opens up a whole new philosophical area that the atheist has to rely on and has to do work on along with everybody else, including stuff that you have to give evidence for. Or else you're just going to have faith that some things are true like the rest of us, and that we're not all like the humans in the Matrix movies. And by the way, I'm not saying that if one makes a statement such as there is a God, that one doesn't have to give reasons for that. I'm happy to give reasons for my faith in God. That is the Christian position. But that's for another video. We're not talking about that today. But look, you might be saying honestly, I'm just not sure about God. If you give me reasons for God, I might believe it. If that's true, then you're probably some kind of agnostic. You might even be having doubts about your atheism. Only you can know that for sure, but again, that's for another video. Of course, what you might be doing is claiming that your unbelief in God is passive. Just like I don't believe in fairies or that there's a cow in my bathroom. And I don't have to give you a reason for that. And I think that's okay. But here's the thing, you see, my passive unbelief in bathroom cows doesn't cause me to take any action. It's only existent things that cause anything. I once dropped a massive club hammer on my foot and it caused a blackened toe and a huge amount of pain, and I was writhing around for ages. A non-existent club hammer causes no pain. And in the same way, my unbelief in bathroom cows causes nothing. It seems to me that for a belief to cause action, there has to be a positive belief and a positive claim. So what about atheism? Well, I think for a passive unbelief, it just causes too much action. You've got specialist atheist websites, conferences, t-shirts, really bad best-selling books by Oxford biology professors, and an internet swamp buzzing and rattling with atheist keyboard warriors. I just think we'll have to be suspicious of something that causes so much activity. Don't you? Actual beliefs have entailments. That means if something is true, if one thing is true, then some other things follow. So if one continues in a denial that Scotland exists, other things follow, such as the need to find an alternative for iron brew and deep-fried Mars bars. So what follows from the idea that God doesn't exist? Well, let's see what a famous atheist, Friedrich Nietzsche, has to say on the topic. I'm going to read you what he says. He says this: when one gives up the Christian faith, one pulls the right to Christian morality out from under one's feet. This morality is by no means self-evident. Christianity is a system, a whole view of things thought out together. by breaking one main concept out of it, the faith in God, one breaks the whole. Nothing necessary remains in one's hands. He's basically saying that if we throw out God, the whole house collapses. In fact, it has to. And then many other things disappear with God. Things like ethics, law, and human rights theory are all based on the idea that you are made in the image of God. Things like the idea that human beings have inbuilt value and that you, Mr. or Miss or Mrs. or Miss Atheist, are a person of dignity and worth. Get rid of that and you're just an accidental splat of vibrating atoms in the corner of a meaningless and pointless universe. Why don't you look inside yourself and ask yourself if you believe that's true? Do you believe you're just a meaningless splat, really? Here's a thing you could do. Go and ask your mother. Ask your mother if she thinks you're a meaningless splat. You've got to ask, how could such a simple passive unbelief have such drastic consequences? It really does seem to me that atheism has implications just like every other belief system. Single beliefs don't stand alone either. They have satellites, such as my belief in God has associated beliefs such as justice and how I treat my fellow man and how I look after my family and my wife and things like the purpose of life and the values that I have. So you might ask, well, what about atheism? Surely it doesn't attract other beliefs. Well, it does, because scientism and naturalism are satellites that orbit around atheism and atheism orbits around them. They influence and attract each other. It's like a gravitational pull between those beliefs. They affect one another. In fact, the effect of atheism on those other things, it means those things are restricted because they come with the idea that you can't let God get a foot in the door. You're not allowed to look for meaning or cause outside of the natural universe. Why? Because that would let God get a foot in the door. One of the most compelling things that points to atheism being a belief system is the idea of it being an identity marker. You see, if I tell somebody I'm a Christian, if it comes up in conversation, I do it because I put my trust in Jesus. But I don't go around identifying as one of my passive beliefs. I don't say to people, you know what, I'm an A bathroom Taoist. So if you put little pictures of the flying spaghetti monster on your Twitter feed, or you have things like Skeptic or Free Thinker on your Facebook page, those things don't come from a passive unbelief. They're identity markers. If you have meetings and you attend conferences and you buy all the latest books by the atheist preachers, and especially if you see an attack on them as an attack on you, or you consider yourself a follower of Dawkins or Dennett or Hitchens or Harris, and you can't wait, you dream of the next video coming out from Matt Dillahunty, then given your desire for evidence, shouldn't you really ask yourself, is that really coming from a passive unbelief in something? I mean, why don't I spend so much time looking into my passive unbelief in bathroom cows? If the evidence points to atheism looking and acting like a belief system, which I think it does, then it probably is one, even a religion. Remember, you don't have to believe in God to be religious. Buddhists and some Confucianists and even some lifetime church-going people don't believe in God. I've got little doubt that atheism is a belief system, even a religion. And in some cases, people in it behave like they're in a cult. And I know that saying that drives me atheist potatoes into a state of apoplexy. But look, it's not my intention. I'm not trying to upset people. I'm just trying to show you some things you might not see otherwise as you live in the echo chamber of your internet swamp. And I've already said, I know you're not all the same. If the very idea that atheism could be a religion scares you or makes your blood boil, it could just be It may just be that you have some hard thinking to do, because you can't just sit and scowl at us and tell us to prove our religion to you. If your atheism is something that causes actions, or that you wear like an identity badge, or it has implications, then you have to give reasons for your act of belief. And all I'm suggesting is that you ask yourself some honest questions about that and throw away your secret pack of Dickie Dawkins dust.